Chapter 7, Finders Keepers. From where they stood, Rico and Scott couldn't see much. Their eyes were used to the dark, but they were at a bad angle to see much. Clay was bent over a big, old metal box. He reached inside and pulled out something. When Clay lifted his hands, the boys knew. He was holding money, a big handful of money. "Looks like I hit the jackpot," Clay said. Then he began laughing. There were great big laughs, real whoops of joy. It was more than Scott could stand. He took a few steps out from the darkness. Then he spoke up. "That's my grandpa's money." For a second, Clay was stunned. He thought he was alone in the mine. Now there was a voice coming from the darkness. Who's there?" Clay cried. His voice was up high and scared. Quickly he grabbed a light and aimed it into the dark. For a moment, the two boys just stared at each other. Scott stared into the light. Clay stood still, his mouth dropping open. "You stole my grandpa's map," Scott went on. "That money belongs to him, or to me." "Yeah, right," Clay mocked him. "Finders, keepers. And who says that I stole the old man's map? It's your word against mine, Scott." That's when Rico stepped out of the shadows. He smiled at Clay as if he were in control of the whole thing. "And my word, too," Rico added. "I bet that money really belongs to the bank. But we should all get some kind of reward. Now, if you stop being a jerk, maybe we'll cut you in for a share." "Fat chance, loser," Clay told him. "My share is 100%. Your share is 0. Now I think you two should get out of here. I've got a treasure to take home." The three boys stared at one another. If it came to a fight, it would be 2 against 1. But Clay was bigger than either Scott or Rico. He was used to beating up kids, and he knew how to use his fists. Scott would be useless in a fight, so the odds weren't that good, and Rico knew it. He decided to bluff. "Over my dead body," Rico said. "If that's what you want," Clay snapped back. He grabbed the shovel and began walking towards Rico. "What are you going to do?" Rico asked. "Hit me?" "Yeah, for a start," Clay replied. He held the shovel in 2 hands, moving forward. Rico didn't like these odds. He moved back, away from Clay, into the darkness. With his dark coat and muddy pants, Rico couldn't be seen. Scott was really scared. He had never won a fight in his life. Now a big kid was coming at him with a shovel. He made a quick choice. He ran. "I'm going to get you," Clay swore. But Clay had a problem too. He couldn't hold both the shovel and the flashlight. To see, he needed the light. To fight, he needed the shovel. Quickly, he made his choice. Clay raced into the darkness, swinging his shovel back and forth. By now, Scott was back at the tunnel entrance. He could see Clay's shadow, but knew that Clay couldn't see him. But Rico was still trapped in the mine. He was there, somewhere in the dark. Sooner or later, Clay would find him. Rico took that moment to make fun of Clay. "Over here, reject," Rico called. Scott heard the voice, then saw Clay stomping over to the right. There was a crash. Clay had smashed the shovel into a wall. There was a clatter of feet. Then Rico spoke up again. "Missed me." Clay moved to the left, further down the mine room. It was pitch black down there, but he must have seen a shape. Smash! Clay slammed the shovel into something. "Please don't let that be Rico," Scott prayed. It wasn't. From another spot, Scott and Clay heard Rico laugh. "Missed me again!" Scott was amazed. His friend was playing cat and mouse with this bully. But Clay had a shovel, and he was a lot bigger than either of them. Rico wouldn't have a hope if Clay found him. Clay went back to his flashlight and beamed it all over. He found Rico in one corner. I can see you now, Clay declared. He grabbed his shovel, then began running right towards Rico. Now I've got you. Clay lifted the shovel to one side and swung it like a baseball bat. Smash! There was the sound of metal hitting something. If he hit Rico like that, Rico would be out cold. But Clay hadn't hit Rico. He'd smashed the shovel into an old wood beam. The beam held up the roof of the mine. There was a cracking sound, then a creaking sound. Nice work, Reject, Rico called out. But Clay said nothing. All three of them could hear a strange sound all around them. It was a sound of splintering wood and shaking earth. Suddenly, there was coal dust falling from the roof. Even the floor seemed to be shaking. Clay had knocked down a support beam. Now the roof was coming down. In a second, Rico came running to the mouth of the tunnel. He grabbed Clay's flashlight so they could see their way. "Let's get out of here," he screamed. In a flash, Scott was right behind him. The two boys ran like crazy. Behind them, the roof of the mine was coming down in huge pieces.